We're live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who's able to join us today. As always, a big thank you to Team Rewatch because I know with this and that, it isn't always possible. And I am joined today by Greg from Ghost Readers in the Sky. Welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now, I've been thinking a lot about this, Elaine, because I think that you don't have a theme song for
I
this
don't
show.
see you do this
And
amazing singing
I
on
think
your
you really
channel.
need a theme song. And so I adapted a song that I learned from one of my grandmother's 45s years ago.
I remember what those are.
I was going to say, you kids don't remember what 45s are, but some of us do. And so I think this should be your theme song.
Okay.
It's the wail of a tale of the tale of Cobalt Dragon, who was born not much bigger than a mouse. But her tail grew in size till she had to realize that her tail was growing right out of the house. It's a wail of a tale of the tale of Cobalt Dragon, and the long and the short of it is true. And if you should doubt what this song is all about, well, I feel sorry for you. So there, I think that should be the theme song.
That is awesome. Now I'm going to have to save that clip. I love when you do your singing in your videos.
I have a lot of fun with it. Gareth, Book Songs and Other Magic, usually
Yep.
has music at the beginning and the end that his band does.
Yep.
A song that his son wrote and sings, and every once in a while he doesn't put the music at the end.
Yeah, I saw that
I always write
comment.
to him and say, "Hey, Gareth, you forgot your music again." So when we did when Gareth put together his favorite books of the year
Yeah,
compilation,
yeah.
I did an outro for trying to sing that. So it didn't sound very good. So I
Oh, your
quit.
singing's always
We should just
amazing.
let Louis sing this instead of me. But it was a lot of fun, and it's fun to throw things out like that every once in a while.
Well, and I mean, we each kind of do our own different thing, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you have this wonderful thing with your singing and you add it into various videos. And I think that's amazing because it's not something all of us can do or would feel comfortable doing. So I think it's great to find those things that make each of us unique. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think before we get too far in this, we were talking before we came live about you coming up to your 1 year anniversary on your channel.
Yeah.
So talk a bit about what does your channel kind of focus on and a little bit about your experience with discovering YouTube and deciding to be a creator. Like what made you switch from viewer to creator?
Yeah. I've always been a reader, and so I am always looking for what else to read. I've
Mm,
I like the classics, and then for quite a while I was really focusing on newer works, and of course the different corners of BookTube have different things that they focus on. But I found a lot of the people who were focusing on new fiction, things that were just coming out, and then things like the Booker Prize and the Women's Prize and some of the other uh, big prizes. So I would learn about things there and say, what do I want to read from these lists?
mhm.
Um, and I've joked around and said that it seems like originally when I first started, all of the booktubers I was watching were gay men in their 40s. I
Mm.
don't know how that worked, but it just kind of that's it. And so, but I've expanded from there. But that led me to finding some of the larger channels in our corner of
Mm.
BookTube, Michael K. Vaughan and Criminale and uh, Shelley Swearingen and people like that. So and then that and then once I started hearing about those people, and I started getting, YouTube starts telling me about, uh, Gavin and Randy Ray and Gareth and Alan and all these other people, Alan and Alan, and then I start finding a group of people that really uh, made a lot of sense for me to not only to follow but to become friends with.
Nice. And so then starting to create your videos, how did that come about?
I just decided I'd kind of been toying with the idea, and I'd mentioned it to family members, and I said I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing this, and I wasn't discouraged. So that was, I thought that was a good sign.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I said, uh, you know, I've thought about this, and if I have a channel, it's going to have to be called Ghost Readers in the Sky.
Such a
And
great name.
everybody said, yeah, you should do that. And so then I had to. I was forced into it.
And it's funny because the number of times I've said Ghost Riders,
Yeah.
because it's where I automatically go to.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, that's a great name. And so why did you decide on that name?
I was probably humming that tune one day. Um, that's kind of, I don't remember where it came from, but I'm sure, that's a song that I've known forever.
Mm,
And Ghost Riders in the Sky, and it just one day it was in my head, and I thought, hey, you could just change writers to readers, and it's a nice pun.
yeah.
I have having come across Leslie's channel much later, books, Gers and Purrs.
Yeah, and
See,
I
I could
always
have
did
gone.
that backwards.
I could have gone books, guns, and puns, and that
Ah,
would have been, that would have been okay with me because it has puns in the title, and I think there would
yeah.
have been something punny about that. But think it's I think the way I did it, it worked out really well.
Yeah, it's an excellent name. I mean, very creative and wonderful. And like you say, that musical part of you also
Hmm.
in terms of the creation. So as far as your content, because I know you have poetry and some other things. So do you have a favorite or particular genre? Do you read pretty much anything?
I was going to focus this channel really on westerns and the literature of the American West, and it was just too it was too tight. It was too small
Mm,
of and I always have read more. I do love westerns, but there's so much, in that broader category, particularly of adventure fiction.
mm,
There's so much that I love there, and
nice.
and I love nature writing. I love, there's so many things that I really enjoy that I just kind of branched out and embraced a lot of things other than just westerns. Although I do tend to uh, read a lot of classics. Um,
Mm,
every once in a while, I read a book by somebody who's still alive, and I make a note of that because most of my favorite authors died decades ago, if not
mm.
centuries.
That that does happen with some of them. Now, in the classics, is there a favorite style that you have? Like, is it the science fiction? Is it also the westerns or
I do love the classic westerns, that kind of golden age of westerns. I say that starts with Owen Wister and the Virginian in 1901,
mm,
and kind of goes through. I've usually put it through about the death of Zane Grey. So it's really the first half of the 20th century. When with westerns, you you had Max Brand and Louis L'Amour started in the 30s or so, and
Hmm.
you get a lot of the really core people writing there, and then the people who are also writing about the West, like Willa Cather and uh, Frank Norris and Stephen Crane. So you've got a nice mix of people, and a lot of those are adventure stories or really interesting character studies.
Oh, cool.
Um, and then and like Robert Louis Stevenson, I mean, I just don't
Mhm.
think you can go wrong with Kidnapped and Treasure Island and Master of Ballantrae. And I have not read The Sea Wolf, but I think I got a buddy read coming up next year for The Sea Wolf.
Ah,
We're talking. It may happen.
no, okay, Seawolf. Is that Jack London?
Uh huh.
No. Is it?
Yeah,
Because I
I skipped.
actually have a copy of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah,
And I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to.
yeah.
I loved, well, no, I do love because it's amazing work. And I read Jack London when I was much younger, like in my teens. So,
Hmm.
hey, Pat. And I had said we have Ariana joining us as well, which is lovely.
Nice.
Oh,
Ooh,
and we have Bookish. What a coincidence! Just joined in. Hello. Um, but yeah, I read White Fang
yeah,
and I read Call of the Wild,
yep.
and neither were easy reads. I
No,
mean, they're amazing, but I don't do well with stuff with animals. I mean, The Journey Home was equally brutal, and Old Yeller. I mean, it's probably a good thing I read all of those things when I was younger because they they just crush me now.
yeah,
And I haven't read Seawolf, but knowing that it's by Jack London, I'm like, mm, don't know if I could actually read it. So I'm gonna have to hum and
yeah.
haw and look a bit more about what is the premise. Okay, so Bookish is a we might read Seawolf this August. Okay, there's the
There it
coincidence.
is.
That's
There it
cool.
is. Hi, Lydia.
So that's awesome. And it's funny because last Monday I ended up at Alan and Greg's just as Alan was talking about he and I reading a separate reality. So it's like it's funny how the universe works sometime. But
Yeah.
yeah, and westerns are a genre I have to say I don't actually think I have read anything that would fall in that class. Like Robert Louis Stevenson, I just finally read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean,
Yeah.
I've known about the story for decades, and I haven't seen Mary Riley yet. And I know that came out ages ago, but I
Hmm.
finally just read that. Finally just read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but again, have seen movies over the
Right.
years about it. And Sleepy Hollow. So Oscar Wilde, finally read that. And I have to say, the movies for sure versus it took me forever to get through the story. And I mean, it's an amazing story. I know
Yeah.
it, but the writing just, I mean, it's like sadly a Christmas Carol. I'm only, I think, a third of the way through, and I've yet to finish reading it. It just, and I've never read um, any of Dickens' novels,
Hmm.
so I wasn't used to his writing style. I did comically realize I'd read a short story, a ghost story by Dickens in one of my other collections before I read The Signal Man, which I really enjoyed. So those two, maybe it's just the shorter stories,
Yeah.
or it's the wording of A Christmas Carol. I'm not sure. There's just something. Now, I know you said you're reading the Pickwick Papers
Yeah,
as part of a group read. Is that is the Signal Man part of that as well, or am I mistaken? I know the Signal Man has a couple of other parts
yeah.
somewhere in Dickens' work.
There are. Um, Pat was saying that she read a book of ghost stories by Dickens, and four of those stories came out of the Pickwick Papers. I've
Ah,
read through. I found two of them so far, and I'm not. Uh, I don't think the Signal Man is part of that, but I could be
hmm.
wrong. Since I'm halfway through the book.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't remember because I know through our chat, I
Mm,
think it's in Voxer for the Ghosts of Christmas Past event. Someone did mention that it came up. Oh, here we go. Thanks, Pat. Not the
yeah,
Signal Man, not part of the Pickwick Papers. Okay, so I'm either getting the stories wrong because I don't know my Dickens. I I know Oliver Twist and the names of the stories, but the stories themselves I don't know. So I'll have yeah, the mystery with that continues. And Ariane is saying she read her first westerns 2 years ago with June on the Range. Nice, become
mhm,
one of my favorite reading events. And that's the beauty of trying out different genres as well is
yeah.
okay, you get to discover other genres that you may not have tried. And I like hearing people talk about the different books. Okay, Pat's on
Mhm,
it. The Signal Man is part of Mugby Junction. Okay. So that's where that comes up. I mean, I enjoyed it as a standalone read, and I
mhm,
do need to read it again just because, I mean, it's not that it's a difficult read, but there are so many different layers to it. And I think it was Pat that had shared in the group about Charles Dickens had actually been in a train wreck and quite a
mhm.
serious one. And then it was afterwards that he'd written The Signal Man. And ironically, 5 years later, I think he died in a train wreck. Have to double check that.
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean, he's
and
an
then
interesting individual, no matter how you look at it.
and I can't remember who brought this up. Um, Somebody I saw out here in the booktube world. I think it was Dan Simmons who wrote a book about Charles Dickens and the train crash that he was in.
Yeah,
A fictionalized version of that. So yeah, it's
yeah. Simmons is
amazing.
a chunky monkey, and that's Drood. And I know Pat
Mhm.
now. Oh, okay,
Yes.
and Pat's correcting me, so we'll come back to that. See, Pat's on it. Good thing she joined us.
Yeah.
But Drood Pat mentioned, and yeah, that is based on Dickens. Simmons, I read The Terror and absolutely loved it. He did such an excellent job with that. And the Prime series, even though different in certain spots to the book, both were done, I think, equally well. And it was nice. I had the book
Mhm.
from the library and I was watching the Prime series at the same time. So it was kind of cool being able to connect those and go, oh wait, no, that character is way worse in the show, and kind of not even that big a deal in the book. But I really appreciated Simmons included his resources in the back of the book. And it was funny
Nice.
because one of the books he mentioned I had read years ago about the Franklin expedition. And so then I ended up learning more about the expedition and checking out some of those books and just found out, well, I guess it was last year, that a few years ago they've actually found the Erebus and the Terror, and of course, trying to continue with that research and those discoveries is easier said than done because it is in the Arctic. And so there's a lot of issues in terms of weather and ice and all kinds of things. But we'll just catch up with Pat. So, no, he didn't die in a train wreck. So I stand corrected. He did die 5 years later. I had that part right. Ah, but died on the anniversary of the train wreck. Okay, I knew there was
Oh,
some kind of a connection there. That's pretty wild. Wrote Drood, which starts with the train wreck. Okay. And yeah, and I think all of Simmons' books are quite large. I know it's 700 some pages. My search for it continues. So fingers crossed. I find it at the thrift store because I did check Thrift Books, which is where Pat found her copy. It's, I think, $7 Canadian, but shipping and handling because it would come up to
yeah.
Canada. I checked Abe's Books, $5 and a bit. Oh, no, wait. It was the other way around. So $7 on Abe's, $12 shipping and handling. I'm like, seriously? And Amazon is $26. So I'm like, okay, I'm hoping the thrift store because I found a bunch of Wilbert Smiths and Stephen King and most of the Dresden Files. It just hasn't occurred to me to look for Simmons because I don't normally just
Yeah.
wander the fiction section there. I'm usually going for horror, sci-fi, ghost stories, craft books, or self-help. I have my sections that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hang in, and definitely when I go in, there are shelves and shelves of $1 books because some of them are like either they're not going to sell or there's a little bit of water damage. And I'm like, for $1, I'm good. I mean, I got Skeleton Crew and Night Shift by Stephen King, two
Mhm.
short story collections for literally $1 because I went on a 50% off day. I'm like, there is no way you're going to find two King Chunky Monkeys for $1 together. So I'm hoping if I'm meant to find Drood, it will show up there because it does sound like a fascinating story. And
Yeah.
Simmons, like I say, The Terror was an excellent read. Like he kept you going beginning to end, and it isn't like gruesome horror. It's suspense and what's going to happen. And I mean, from history, they're not going to make it, but
Yeah.
just the way he comes up with what was possibly going on. Because, of course, no one's ever going to know what happened. None of them came forward, to say what happened. And I mean, even now they're still changing what they believe happened to them. Was it the contaminated food? Was it the combination of where they got stuck, contaminated food? And I mean, so many factors. But
Mhm.
and see now with Westerns, the closest thing I know to Westerns is Gunsmoke, Bonanza,
Yep.
Warren Green, my all-time favorite actor. Bonanza, Battlestar Galactica, amazing individual.
Yeah.
But I just never got into reading those books. I think partly because I don't really read adventure. I'm more
Mhm.
horror, ghost story, scary kind of stuff. So, yeah, I might one of these days because when I've been at my thrift store, I've seen a whole section of Western books. Like we have two stores here, Goodwill, and they're both specifically bookstores. We have the others as well that have, a few book titles and that, but these are solely dedicated to books with incredible selections and such a wonderful variety. But so
Yeah.
if I was gonna, hey Gareth, if I was going to try a Western for the first time, is there a book or an author you would recommend?
Charles Portis, True Grit. That's
Okay.
the place to start. And that, you know, that's the book that the film, both the John Wayne film from however far back and then the Jeff Bridges film. The good
Okay.
thing about the book, and I can say this without it being a spoiler, the book is it's narrated by the girl, by Maddie, and
Ah,
Maddie Ross. Yeah. And she is much more interesting in the book than the film. The films were, you know, they were always about Rooster Cogburn. So the old one is about John Wayne as Rooster Cogburn. The newer one is about Jeff Bridges as Rooster Cogburn, and everybody else is kind of a ancillary secondary character. But listening to Maddie Ross, who's 14, 15, she's, you know, pretty young, but she's the one
uh-huh.
who's going out to uh, get revenge for her father's death and hires Rooster
Ah,
Cogburn. And that the plot points are all there in the films, but in the book, listening to her talk about it and getting her perspective on all of this is it's just it's a wonderful book. And I think if you're going to start with westerns and you haven't read them, I
mm,
think it's a great, and it's fairly short, and it's but being told by a teenage girl who is man, don't cross her. She
mm. Yes, yeah, I mean, I know different characters, and it's probably from the movies like Annie Oakley and,
yeah,
others. And like I say, I remember Miss Kitty on Gunsmoke. We used to watch it, and Bonanza, the Cartwrights, and
yeah,
following that family. So for me, the Western experience was via television
right,
versus through books. Of course,
right.
I also watched Alfred Hitchcock at 5, which probably wasn't a great idea, but had an older sister, so she was watching it. I watched it, and you'd think I'd have nightmares, but maybe that's why I don't get scared as easy about the supernatural stuff that might make people's skin crawl. It's like I was watching Alfred when I was a kid and like the horrifying dolls and all that kind of stuff, and then would go up to bed. So it's the
Yeah,
only, I'll be honest, the only Stephen, actually, no. Okay, so there, it's not one, there's now two. The only two Stephen King books that have really given me the icks. First was Misery, and I didn't watch that movie as much as I love Kathy Bates, and I'm sure she played a great wacko.
oh
No,
my
the
goodness,
human
she did.
monsters I do not like.
Yeah,
And then Revival. I mean, I've read it twice. It was a great read both times. I just don't like where King went with the afterlife. It was like, no, I'm hoping he's way wrong on this. It was bad, bad enough with The Stand and Dead Zone, especially now with Dead Zone. And yes, oh, Misery's amazing. For a minute there, I thought you were saying Mr. Mercedes there, Gareth, because I know you like that one. And yeah, whoops, James Caan is
yeah,
also in the movie, and I'm sure they both did an amazing job with it. I just, no. I don't watch true crime. I will rarely read true crime. I actually picked up one book because there were a few stories in there that ties in with some of the other massive spirals I'm on. But the five I enjoyed. That's by Haley Rubenhold, but that's about the five
yes,
women,
that is
not.
fantastic.
It's an amazing book, and I mean, she does such an amazing job in that introduction about talking about here's what's going on in the Victorian period. And I think without that amazing introduction, it would have made the rest of the read different because sitting here in 2025, so far removed from what was happening in that time period, especially for me because I'm not a big history buff. I mean, I love ancient civilizations, but that's like way, way back. Even
Yeah.
Queen Victoria was far from a glimmer in her pappy's eye for the time periods I read and delve into. So I think it was really excellent that she explained here's what was going on with Victoria, here's what was going on with the people and the population, and what was the situation in Whitechapel and all of
Mhm.
that, which laid such a beautiful groundwork for then sharing the stories of what she could piece together about the five women and just focusing on the women. Like there's no
Yeah.
gruesome detail. She mentions the news articles, which sadly reporting was very different then. So to even try and piece some things together took a lot of work for sure. And here's directed by Rob Reiner.
Oh, I'd
May he
forgotten
rest
that.
in peace.
I'd forgotten
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the five was so well done. And there's one of the first books I actually heard Leslie talk about on her channel, and I'm so glad that I picked
Mhm.
it up and read it. It's an amazing read. Believe Rob Reiner directed Stand By Me. Oh, there you go.
Mm.
That I'm not sure, but Gareth will probably know that. I think
Yeah.
I think I watched Stand By Me. I don't know, there's so many Stephen King. I mean, I definitely remember watching Carrie when it first came out. I haven't seen the new one, and I'll be honest, I have no interest in watching the new one. I get that it's a reboot for a younger generation. See, I knew Gareth would be on it. Yes, he did. Yep, two people, both Gareth and Harry Ann know that. Um, but for me, Carrie will always be Sissy Spacek.
Mhm.
And I don't have a copy of Carrie anymore, but in order to do the reread for the banned book project and reading banned books, I got it through my library on Libby. And I don't often do audiobooks. My mind, it's not a good fit. I end up missing a ton of stuff versus, book in hand. And that's
Yeah.
part of why I annotate is it keeps me in the book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. I'm like right in it with my sticky notes and markers and highlighters. But listening to Sissy Spacek read Carrie
Oh.
was awesome. She did such an amazing job of reading that story. And I love that it also had, because it's newer, a newer version, it had a little bit by Stephen King talking about how he came up with the character of Carrie and two girls from his school experience who had been treated not well and things did not end well in either case. And as he was reflecting on his life, thus Carrie was created. But yeah, listening to Sissy Spacek read that book,
Mm.
I'm glad a newer generation can enjoy the newer updated version. Um, but no, it was like The Shining. I had to see the one with Jack Nicholson. I'm not watching the new one. It may be better. I know it's a different take, but no, I'm just too set in my ways. Like I'm in my sixth decade now. No. And Dave's not here, but he would be horrified for me to say, no, there's only one Battlestar Galactica, and the new one is not it. It is Lauren Green, Richard Hatch, and Dirk Benedict. Even though they didn't have like the CGI or could fancy it up, sometimes those old classics are
Mhm.
classics for a reason. But yeah, okay, and two of the best King films. Yeah, I mean, some of his have adapted well for sure. Now, With your Western reading, did you watch like Gunsmoke, Bonanza? Was it just a genre you were interested because adventure?
A couple of things. My grandfather read all the time,
Hmm.
but he read almost all Zane Grey. That was almost all he read. A good 80% of what he read was Zane Grey. And then he would fill a little bit of the time with Louis L'Amour. And if he was really feeling like being a rebel, he'd read Max Brand. So, so I started trying Zane Grey books early.
Hmm.
But when I was a youngster, in elementary school and coming home after school, and when things like Star Trek were playing in reruns on TV,
Yeah.
it was also the Wild Wild West, Robert Conrad
Ah,
and Ross Martin, and I loved that show. I've seen some of them again. I mean, that came out in like 64, 65. I can't remember. It only lasted like 3 seasons. But I go back and I've watched some of those episodes, and I think they stand up pretty well. And
yeah.
so that was kind of my, and that's a nice blend of, you know it's James Bond in the American West. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what they wanted it to be. And so they had, you got the Master of Disguises, and you got all the fancy gadgets, and the gun that's in the sleeve, and the explosive in the heel of the boot, and
Yeah. Lots of great
and
stuff
I
for sure.
and I love that show. The film I didn't like at all. I thought I would, and uh, Kevin Kline and Will Smith and Kenneth Branagh, and I mean, it sounded like it was going to be. I like the cast and everything, and I just did not like that film
Mm.
at all.
Yeah, some things adapt well and some don't. I think it's a combination of the actors that they pick, the director, how true do they want to stay to the story. But I mean, it's also a huge challenge to translate that into a movie because, you've got that time factor and what is an audience going to enjoy versus what are readers looking for with the description and things like that. It's two very different skill sets,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
And even things like Star Trek. I mean, I'm definitely OG, but that's because when I was coming home from school,
yep,
that's my that was my introduction to Star Trek. I
yep,
didn't mind The Next Generation, but it wasn't my first
yeah,
experience with Star Trek, right? So to me, no, it always starts with Kirk, Spock, McCoy, that camaraderie and connection between them, which you don't quite see as much in the next generation. You have Geordie and Data together, but again, it's different, a different situation. So sometimes the old classics are just best left alone.
yeah.
um, and we have Gavin and Eva who have joined, who have said hello to. Gareth was gutted with Wild Wild West because it was Barry Sonnenfeld who has done such great
Oh,
films.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm not I don't know what that refers to. So
The
is
film,
that
the Wild
somebody?
Wild West film. So Barry Sonnenberg was the director of the Wild Wild West film with Will Smith and Kevin Kline.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
forgotten that, but yeah, it had all the right pieces, and the film just
Hmm.
didn't didn't work for me.
Hmm.
If it didn't work for Gareth, if we agree, anytime I agree with Gareth on films, and I feel like I'm in the right ballpark.
Well, see, I have my Christmas decorations on. I have my Jack Skellington, who is definitely Christmas, and I have my jingle bells. So you can only get mileage out of this stuff so often. Who am I kidding? It's always Halloween. The jingle bells, though, are just once a month.
Yeah.
But so you had started your channel and you were saying with the Westerns. Now, you also enjoy poetry. How did that
Yeah.
come about?
Um,
Was
it
it
was April.
school later?
Yeah, I've liked poetry, and uh, there had always been poets who I enjoyed. I think E. E. Cummings was one of the first that I really um, grabbed onto, and some of the other, some of T.S. Eliot's, especially J. Alfred Prufrock, and some of those. So yeah, and reading most of that in school,
Hmm.
in the later years, and there were some other things that I liked too, but that era was kind of that was kind of where I was drawn. But um, I I I was listening to um, so this was later. I was listening to quite a bit of cowboy music. So the old
Hmm.
traditional songs like "Little Joe the Wrangler" and "Goodbye Old Paint," and the ones that have been around forever, "Ghost Riders in the Sky,"
It's
uh,
such an amazing song.
and and so through that I found the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering,
Oh,
which
neat.
has uh, poets and musicians, just because they go, and a lot of poems. Um, the Charles Badger Clark's poem, "Border Affair," that starts with "Spanish is the loving tongue," and then that went
Mm.
to music and has been recorded by a number of artists. And so there, I mean, there's a big tie to, sometimes it starts as a poem, sometimes it starts as a song, sometimes and sometimes you just pull the lyrics out and they work just fine without
Yeah.
being a song. Um, and so I've been able to go to that. That's held every January in Elko, Nevada, and I've been able to
Nice.
go to that a few times, and so meet some of the poets, and quite a few of the poets who I've read poems from. I was first familiar with them through the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering, and I started in April because it was National Poetry Month, and I said I'm gonna do for this month. I'm gonna do on Poetry Thursdays. I'm gonna do a cowboy poem, and then I
Nice.
just kept it up. I haven't missed very many. I did not get one up today, but
Life.
most Thursdays since May, I have put up a cowboy poem or two, and uh, it's been really enjoyable for me going through and reading various collections, uh, and there aren't a lot of people who watch those videos, but
Mm.
the engagement is massive. The people who like it absolutely love it, and so
That's
that's all.
awesome.
That's a lot of fun. So I get a lot of really good feedback from those, and people are telling me what they like, and if uh, if it spins in a way that they didn't like, they'll tell me, and and
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. We can have good conversations.
And to me, that's the important thing is the conversations, the interactions, even if it's just an emoji, so you know
Yeah,
that someone's watched or stopped by, checked in. But it's lovely when viewers comment, whether it's, hey, I really like this, or no, this author didn't work for me, or hey, try this or that. And yeah, for me personally, that's what it's about. The viewers, the community, that engagement and that interaction. And not because it appeases the YouTube algorithm, but because that's what I'm looking for. And I mean, I've said, in videos and before too. To me, kindreds are not the people who 100% agree with me. They're the people I can have conversations with. And
Right.
I like hearing different viewpoints because that's how you learn and grow. And getting those interactions is also helps us develop as content creators. So, I mean, even though maybe they don't get thousands of views, but the views they're getting are important to the people who are watching,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And that community is that's why I'm here, because I was enjoying watching other people's videos about the books that they'd read and the books they liked, and what their favorites were every year, and all of those different things that we like to do.
Yeah.
And that's what, yeah, that's what drew me in and made me want to be a part of what's going on. And so yeah, here we are. We're 11 months. Yeah, Ariane is one, and
Excellent.
she is one of the
And yeah.
people who comments pretty much every week.
And again, that's the part that counts, right? So
Yeah,
you have appreciation for that work. And to
yeah,
me, that's what it's about. Like, it isn't how many, it's even if it's just one, then it was worth it. If, making someone's day, or,
yeah,
they've learned about a new author or a new book, something. So Eva's
yeah,
saying authentic but intentional. Don't say what you don't mean, but do say something.
yeah,
Let's be social on social media again.
yeah. And I try to. I don't always see every video by everybody who I follow. There's
Yeah,
some people who I try to catch more of than others. Um, but I do try, especially if something strikes me, if it's something we have in common, or whether it's a book or an author, or if it's something. Uh, I was I was watching a fairly new channel, at least new to me. Does he call himself the Homeschool Library?
mm.
Brad is his name. He's out in Southwest Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere. His hats are almost as good as mine. Um, but he
Ooh.
was talking about the Little House on the Prairie books.
Oh, I
He was
love
talking about,
those.
and he was talking about he started a series that he's calling Essential Reading. He's going to have one essential reading for boys and essential reading for girls. He said, but of course, there's a lot of crossover. But he
Yeah.
started with Farmer Boy, um, and that's as far as I got in that series when I was a kid. I read Little House in the Big Woods and Little House on the Prairie and Farmer Boy, and I didn't go further than that.
Mm.
But I was just able to comment and say, yeah, I probably haven't read these books in 50 years,
Yeah.
and it would be really interesting to go back and read them now and
Yeah.
see what I think about him. And I made sure to mention that. And then he responds and says, yeah, he said, I think you'd really enjoy him. And he said, I think the whole series is worth reading. And we didn't have, it was not a long conversation. It was not,
Yeah.
but it was just, we found a connection. And through a book that he's read recently and is working, reading with his boys, and
Mm.
something that I read a long time ago. It's
Nice.
that's a really fun connection to find.
Exactly. And I mean, to me, that's what it's about. And it's so lovely when you do find those connections. Actually, when I was talking about the book haul, and I actually have it ready to upload now, that's going up on Christmas Day, Paul, the accidental bookseller, found me because of my video about the Greys and imminent, which are subjects he's interested in. So when he came up with his idea for this Christmas event, he had tagged me in that. And that's
Yeah,
how we ended up meeting. And I mean, I really wish I kept better notes. I mean, when I was just starting, it was easy to remember how I met who, where, and now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, did I meet them through someone? Did they do the dragon tag? Was their video suggested by YouTube? It's like, how did I meet
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. And
It's
I
all good though.
and I don't remember, there are some people who I remember a more direct connection to. I did a series on the books that made me, and some of the books that I'd read when I was really young, that they've carried over and they've informed a lot of my reading. And I was talking about the adventure books of Willard Price,
Mm,
and I never hear anybody talking about him, but Alan at Alan's Reads, Willard Price was one of his favorite authors when, back then. So we
nice.
started, and I think he had mentioned Willard Price in an earlier. It seems like we had, but anyway, that was the connection for us. It was through Willard Price,
Yeah.
and so there are a few things like that that I really remember. Uh, I I remember, Michael K. Vaughan really. I know he was. I'd seen some of his. Uh, I'd seen a lot of his videos before, but a year 2024 June on the Range is when I really started paying
Yeah.
super close attention to him, and then from there, a lot of the co-hosts then became people who I started following and paying attention to, and so
Nice.
there's some things like that, whether it's an event or a book or
There's so
whatever.
many spin-offs to it, and that's the lovely thing about it is there isn't just one way to meet and connect with people
Yep.
between the events or even the book tags. I mean, I always laugh because my book tags don't, get hundreds and hundreds of views. So, excuse me. But in terms of the people I've met and the connections I've made because of those, again, it's that conversation and those
Hmm.
connections, and it's why I keep doing them. I mean, they're fun and they're enjoyable, and there's just so many spin-offs
Yeah.
doing them. I'm just gonna catch up. Eva, if all you can manage is a gift, do that. Maybe dumb. I love
Yep.
when people that know me show me love online. Like,
Yeah.
dude, you could be doom scrolling, but you watch my thing. Neat. Exactly. And
Yes.
especially when you consider the number of channels and that it's about community interaction and connection. Absolutely. Jenny has joined us. Oh, didn't get the notification. Playing catch up. That's good. Thanks, sweetie. Community is all about connections. I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, I've, lucked into a wonderful group of people. Everyone's saying hi. Jenny saying hey to the dragon mama. And yet, book tags an essential part of connecting with people, big community builders. And I agree. I mean, I found some new channels because of book tags. Either they did somebody else's tag or they've tagged me. I didn't even know that they knew me or were still following me. Like there's so many spin-offs to it. Are you doing the one with the Christmas video with book hauls? Yes. Margaret mentioned it yesterday during her live. Yes, I am. I have it recorded and I lucked into it because I picked up a ton of books at my library and my thrift store had a 50% off sale. So I have 24 books for $26 to highlight in my video.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And I also did a ghost story reading. I just finished it today and saved it. And I'm going to put that up on Boxing Day. So if folks don't have somebody to hang with, because as I said to a friend of mine, the other day. I just called her to let her know I've been thinking about her. This is going to be her first year without her mom. There's a lot of happy, exciting things with this season, but it's also a hard time for a lot of folks. So
Yeah.
I figured between doing that story and the book haul, then if people are, watching YouTube for a voice or what have you, then they have something. And I think it's lovely. So many people are doing that as well. Oh, she tagged me, so I need to make up a holiday haul. Aw, that's a bummer having to go shop for books. Okay, and
We
then we've got
we could have called it a haul a day. It's spelled
oh, you are
HAUL.
so good with those puns.
Well, it's the main thing I've got. I'm uh, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you funny.
And I still love that you knew who Red Green was and watched him. That is amazing. And it's funny because he's got a YouTube channel as well, and I see they've been live for weeks. I don't know what they're doing it on, but yeah, I love that show, Red, Green,
Yeah.
and Harold. It was awesome. Oh, Gareth has another new original tag coming in January. Exciting. We'll have to keep our eye out for that. Did a ton of library book sales this year. Nice. Gonna
Mhm.
make it up, but like it won't be alive. Just wasn't recent or for this holiday. Hey, it's a book haul. That's the part. Hello, welcome. Yeah, grief is hard this time of year. I think the book haul
Yeah.
thing is fun. Agreed. Something to look forward to when I turn on after festivities fade off. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, all right. I gotta find a way to um delete. I've seen this individual before.
And we can remove and ban and all those.
Yeah,
Do you have a moderator who can do that? I don't know if you do.
I've got it.
Okay. Excellent.
They're gone. Hey, Kat.
Excellent.
I had seen. Okay, now can I get that off the screen? Okay, tag me in it. All
So
right, new original. Um, and hopefully they're gone. So there we go. The first time I've had to ban somebody. Is sad, but okay. And then yeah, grief. Hey,
okay.
cat. Couldn't get it to load so I could spam. I was wondering. I thought you were upset with me. I came in and went, oh, look, no spamming. Hi. Yeah, sounds fun. Holiday. That's right. Next year. There's a plan. Hope your day's going well. Same cat. How's it going? It's good, but only, oh, good. Only an hour and a half. You got it. Get them, twin. Are we allowed a sneak peek, Gareth, or do we need to wait till January? Yeah, that's right. He's teasing. Sorry, January. To tags. Oh, suggested based on heroes. Okay, well, that leaves it open because you got lots of them. So based on Dave, Joe, and MJ. There we go. And because sadly, ages ago, and I might have even been that same jerk, showed up in one of Kat's lives reading sprints eons ago. And sadly, Kat ended up banning me. And then it was a whole boondoggle to get me unbanned so I could comment on her videos and things again. So I have no idea where that individual came up from because I've never seen them before, but that should be the end of that nonsense. You'd think people would have better things to do with their time, but here you go. I
Yeah.
haven't done a Kate Bush one yet. Have written the prompt. There we go. Love Kate Bush. She's an amazing artist for sure. But yeah, um, let's see. So we've caught up on the comments. Yay. The photos behind you. Can you talk
Yeah.
about them? I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, the Call of the Wild over here. I think that was
Mm,
from I think it was just a piece from like a book calendar. Was I think, um, and I like to mention that even though there's a dog and a bear, and there are bears up in Alaska, there is no encounter
mm.
between buck and a bear in Call of the Wild. So the picture doesn't fit the book, but I still love the book, and so
Yeah.
I still have it, even though Buck never fought a grizzly.
Thank
Um,
goodness you went through enough as it was.
I know, I know he had a tough time, but
Mm.
uh, and then this is Doctor Who number 6, Colin Baker. I got to see
Ah.
him at a local Comic Con a couple 3 years ago, and so I got my signed
Oh,
picture of
nice.
him. So he was Doctor Who in the late '80s. Gavin could tell you the exact dates. He was Doctor Who from January 13th, right? Um, and and then this portrait here is one that my wife did, and I just love it. And she gave it to me at Halloween time, and I just haven't taken it down. And then she also made this wreath back here.
Well,
So
it's gorgeous.
yeah, and then I got you can just see the bottom of the Highland cow up here. So
I'm just
why not?
laughing with Jenny and her Highland coo, which I'm guessing is different than the plaque that you have there. Oh, so Gavin wants to know, what if Kate Bush is your hero? She's my queen. Queen is my queen.
Yeah, and then I do have. I'll show this off just because it's kind of fun.
Oh, the
And it's
Nutcracker.
Nutcracker season, and yeah, so with the kilt and the sporran and the pipes and everything,
Nice.
everything that is stereotypically Scottish Highlander. There it is.
It's
He may
amazing.
be he may be wearing a Royal Stuart tartan, which is just flat out illegal. So
Oh,
since he's not a member of the royal family,
oh, gotcha.
the Royal
Oh,
Stuart tartan is one of the one. There are some that have restrictions, and that's one. Prince Albert designed it. And
really?
if you're not a member, if you are not basically, if you're not a descendant of Albert and Victoria, you are not allowed to wear Royal Stuart. So you can't
Oh.
just go and buy it. You can't buy the fabric. You can't buy.
Mm.
And there, yeah, and there's some other ones that are, whether uh, they tend to be more specific to organizations or something. And that's about as far as I know. And then Jenny can correct me if I said anything wrong.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Hmm. Greg, are we including Colin's stint as Commander Maxwell in Arc of Infinity? In that case, he started in 83. So there's our Doctor Who
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Awesome decor. Agree. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see, it's always nice because, we've got different things. Well, my background's now dark as it's getting after 4 o'clock here. It's still semi light out there, but my light's not, and if I move it, then it'll end up shining to, oh, there we go. There's a little
Yeah.
more light so I don't look like I'm in a cave. But yeah, because I mean, we always have different things in our videos, but people don't always get to hear about where they came from or why we have them.
Here's my fancy cane, which
Ooh,
may or may not have a sword inside. Um, I was the last book I read by Helen McInnes, one of the spies from Soviet Union had a walking stick that did have a sword in it. Now that see, it's a real thing. It's not just made up. And so, I do have I have that because of the big accident when because
Mhm.
I'd gone up to see I gone up to I live in Idaho, and I'd gone up into the mountains where my cousin Doran Ray lives, and he raises horses, and he had this new mare. Her name was
Mm,
Inga. She was gray. She was big, and just a gorgeous horse, but pretty wild. And
mm.
so I've ridden horses, but I've never tamed broncos.
Okay, yeah.
In my rodeo days, I did more of the steer wrestling and the roping. I didn't do the saddle broncs and the barebacks. So I don't,
Oh, wow,
I've never
you were
been
in
on
a
those kinds of
rodeo?
things. And so anyway, Doran Ray, he asked me if I want to ride, and I, oh, yeah, I'll ride. And I didn't know she was wild. Of course, my cousin
Oh,
did, but he withheld some information from me. So,
oy.
uh, and when things start off, I get on, everything's going fine, and
Yeah.
then she starts, first kind of just bouncing, doing the and then starting to, and then she just starts running around the corral, and
Oh,
all of a
no.
sudden she's running right for the corral wall, and she just leaps over this like a steeplechase, you're right, and then
Oh
we're
my
just out in the open country, and she's running, toward the edge of the forest and
god.
in and out of some of the trees right there, and there's a little creek that goes through there. It's called Keithley Creek, and it's not a very wide creek, but it's deep,
Ooh.
and she leapt over that a couple of times, and I'm just grabbing leather, trying to stay on this
Ah,
horse, and I was doing all right. I was, as she was zigging and zagging, I was going right
yeah,
along with
yeah.
her, and she finally decides it's time to go back, and she turns around, she just gallops, really fast to the
Yeah.
and comes back to and just leaps back over that fence back into the corral. And I was doing great until she put on her brakes and there was the most sudden stop I've ever
Oh,
seen.
no.
And I just went right over her head, and I fell right on this hip, and I could hear it crunch and
Oh,
crackle,
oh.
and I knew it wasn't good. And then Inga goes off to get water and notes and whatever she was doing, and Dorn Ray, he comes up to me and says, "You want to go
Oh.
again?"
Oh, no.
All of that is true. It may not all be factual.
But it's a great story. Well, see, I have a cane, but mine isn't near me because thankfully it's been a little while since I've had to use. Oh, wait, I better find some real wood. Okay, wood. Haven't had to use it for a while, but I have a very fancy one and it's got like all bright paisley design because I decided if I'm going to have to use a stick, then I want it at least to look fancy.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I got this one. And got the because I didn't want one of
Fluffy.
those. I do use it to walk, but I didn't want a medical cane, the one that was
Mm,
that's got the little four legs at the bottom, and that it.
yeah.
I didn't want that because that looks like I'm old. This just looks like I'm
Cool.
a distinguished gentleman with a nice cane. And it's amazing
Exactly.
how polite people are to me. They open doors for me. It's I'm using it to my advantage. And if I get to the point where my balance is better and I don't need a cane, and
Mm.
I may just carry one anyway because people are so nice.
See, and I'm the opposite. Because because it's been over a decade since I had to use it fairly regularly. But I found the opposite. It's incredible the number of people who are bustling around and don't pay attention and have almost knocked the cane. Some are actually quite nice at the door, but being the lovely, sweet individual I am, I have one of those canes with the thing that flicks down because Canada, ice, snow. So it's got the nice little prongies. And sometimes,
Mhm.
if people aren't so nice, then I'm sure that the prongies are down. back,
Yes.
back up in my space. If I can reach you, it's your own damn fault. But some people, well, it's like anything, right? You find some nice people and you find some people who are just so busy hustling and bustling that they're oblivious to it wouldn't matter if I had the cane or not, they'd still be oblivious.
Yeah. And you and I were talking before we started about avoiding politics
Yeah,
at least on YouTube and on television as much, just enough to understand what's going on in the world, but that's
yep.
then stop. Um, and this is I live in Idaho, very heavily. It's been a Republican state for
Mm,
almost. Lyndon Johnson was the last Democrat who won the state, and that was in 1964. Well,
wow.
before me, in my lifetime, the Republicans have won all of the presidential
Mm,
electoral votes here in Idaho, and so it's tends to be about a 2/3, 1/3 split. It moves a little bit here and there, but for the most part,
yeah.
it's about the same. And but when you're just out amongst people,
Mm,
no, nobody cares. It's how they vote, and it's I can disagree, but for the most part, people are people, and
yeah,
they just want to get along, and we have some very different ideas about how to do that, and there are some things that I disagree with very very brazenly, but the people
mm,
you can find common ground with people if you try.
yeah,
And when it's when uh, in my mind, it's when somebody says, "Well, all the Republicans are this, or all the Democrats are this, or
yeah,
all the Native Americans, or whatever it is, however you
yeah,
group them, all women do this and all men do that." That's always it it's not it's well, first, it's not true, but it doesn't help you have a conversation when you put that kind of boundary around people.
yeah,
It's better to get to know them and find out, because you have things in common, because we're human and we have things in common, and then
exactly.
we can go from there. And if we have disagreements, even if they're fairly strong and at least intellectually violent disagreements, well, if you're starting from listening to each other, you've got a chance.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, to me, instead of going by color or nationality, the bottom line is we're all human, regardless
Yeah,
of where we were born, all the rest of it. We're all human. We're all on this planet, and we have nowhere else to go.
yeah,
So, wouldn't it be better to have open, honest communications? And again, it doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything,
yeah,
but let's look for that common middle ground where we can live peacefully together, where the warmongers aren't making billions of dollars because they're the only ones getting rich and they're not the ones out there getting shot up by their stuff. It's
yeah,
everybody else. And yeah, I've always been from knee high to a grasshopper. And my poor dad, but if he were still alive, he'd agree. Whenever I get that whole my way or the highway, I'm more than happy to show you the nearest turn off for the highway because it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Or you get this jump this high, it'll be like, um, guess how many fingers? Because it ain't happening. Like
Right.
that just isn't how it works in my world. If you give me a valid reason and ask me nice, I might.
Mhm.
But, you know, excuse me, beyond that, no, like I really, nothing frustrates me more. And especially, well, even before I got into this, and I'll really be diving into it more next year for myself, not necessarily the channel, in terms of the pagan Bible studies, all of that, how it ties in with the Da Vinci Code. But I truly cannot in my brain fathom why so much human death over belief systems. It's like,
Yeah.
why can't you just do your thing and mind your business? Like, where, and that's when I know it's human interpretation, not divine, because I just cannot fathom an omnipotent being saying, well, no, you got to take out everybody who's not like,
Yeah.
you got to get back to Westerns or something.
Well, or we could, if we want to. You're talking about studying, you know, doing some biblical studies and some paganism. So if we want to go in that woo woo route, we can talk about the Greys.
Now, the Greys are interesting.
Yeah.
Whitley Strieber's book definitely did not make me happy when he screwed up the term empath when it should have been telepath. Like, dude, how could you make such an obvious mistake? But the rest of the book was actually interesting, but I've yet to read his book, Communion. Have you read Stryber? I
No,
can't
I did.
remember now.
I used to listen to him when he would uh, be a guest host on Coast to Coast AM. That's where I
Okay.
became familiar with him when
I
he
think
was
you
first.
left me a comment about that, right?
I may
Yeah.
have um, because I think he was filling in for Art Bell way back in the day, and then he did some for George
Oh.
Flory as well. But yeah, it was always about uh, his abduction. I mean, that's what he always talked about. And
Yeah.
but that's where I first learned about where I first learned the word for the Greys because I had seen that. I know that experience. I understand it completely because I have seen in my peripheral vision. I have seen these creatures running around, and they are what other people describe as Greys. And I've talked to people. And now I'm a skeptic, and I do believe that that is some kind of visual hallucination or
Mm.
something that my mind is seeing something. Maybe my eyes are seeing something, but my brain is interpreting it in a way that gives me something to understand.
Yeah,
But
it's trying to find a pattern.
I completely understand people who say, yeah, this is a real experience.
Mm,
And I believe them when they say that to me, this was a real experience. I believe them, even though I don't see any evidence to convince me that it's true, but I've seen it. I
mm,
know what it, I know what the Greys look like. I know how they behave because I've seen it, and my brain can process that and say there there are aliens running around me, and then my skepticism comes back and I say, no, I don't think so. But it's a fascinating world where
mm,
you when you convince yourself, that confirmation bias, when you convince yourself these creatures are real and I've seen them, and every time I see them, it just convinces me more that they're real, and the more real they are, the more I see them, and I understand. I get it, even though and I don't disagree enough to have arguments with anybody. It's just
mm.
like, yeah, I'm not convinced. I haven't seen evidence that convinces me that the Greys. exist. But if you want to believe in grays, go ahead. I may call you on actually being abducted by aliens. That's because we know what happened to Fox Mulder's sister. We know that's a true that documentary, The X Files. We know that was a true story, but uh, otherwise, I just that's something that is a I can't see any evidence that makes me even think it's possible right now.
Well, see, and that's it. And I mean, the big thing right now is about Three Eye Atlas, and that's what I've been watching
Yeah.
lately. And it's a bit concerning because there are some AI channels spouting nonsense and panic and paranoia. And reading the comments, people don't even realize they're watching AI. That's upsetting. And it does irk me with YouTube when there's all these other rules and guidelines, and yet you see this carp and people aren't critical thinking. Um,
Mhm.
but it even with Avi Loeb, I mean, he isn't saying it's ET. Like he's saying it's an infinitesimal maybe chance, but it is an interstellar object we don't know anything about. And it's only the third identified object because we've just had the equipment now to identify it. I mean, this stuff has been around for a long time. They just never recognized it as interstellar. And this time, at least, they're getting a longer chance to study and learn about it because the others, they just figured it out as they were leaving. So, I mean, I like the thought exercise of it.
Hmm.
But I mean, and I've enjoyed the reads, well, other than Imminent and Poor Dave, because I know he's watched some stuff with Elizondo. I'm like, no, the guy is not legit. Like, there's too many red flags in that book. I'm not buying it because dude's grifter, my opinion. I've now seen other channels of people far smarter and way more education than me who have explained exactly everything with those videos and other things and why this guy is not legit. But he can talk a good story and
Yeah.
do the dance. He's just not dancing fast enough anymore, and he's getting caught more and more because it's just but I I mean, there's something out there. There's no way there can't be just from the immense size of the universe.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we were growing up, I was born in 64. I mean, we had just a few moons, we had our 9 planets, we had the universe. There was no multiverse or a lot of this stuff that's common language now. And we certainly didn't have as many moons identified as we do now and all the rest of it.
Hmm.
But now they've identified exoplanets and they have their Goldilocks zone, and they know there are millions of planets out there. So to me, to think we're the only ones is just arrogance. Like they can't explain how we started in the first place. And who's to say it couldn't have happened somewhere else?
Yeah. Yeah. And since we've seen those building blocks of life on meteors and other extraterrestrial objects, that certainly is a it's an hypothesis. It's just so difficult to test, but perhaps life did start out there and then came here. I don't know. I think it's I do think it's fascinating, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either that we're alone in the vastness of this universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and you read those really serious accounts like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it just proves that, that someday the Earth's going to have to be destroyed so that the space superhighway thing can come through. That we know that's
That's coming.
obviously true. Um, Vogon poetry is a thing. These are things that we know are true because I read it in a book.
There you go. I'm just catching. Oh, okay. So Jenny does. We're on to the tartan. It's the Black Watch tartan that I wish people would stop using. Pretty,
Mm-hmm.
still used by the Scottish military. So, yep, that would make sense that it would just be exclusively for them. Interesting book reading. Violence is morally motivated. It's called Virtuous Violence, might explain why there's so much death due to belief, but other reasons too. That would be an interesting read. Worth adding to my TBR.
Yeah.
Not too far in, don't really know what kinds of books usually reading. Yeah, see, and I suggest you try it from a library first. Seems promising. And yeah, I'm excuse me, glad when you can try. I mean, like these Hancock books, I'm not going to be buying, and I probably won't even be finishing because he does too much cherry picking. I have some of his other work, but the library just saved me $80 because
Yep.
his books now are 40 a pop. Yeah, Jenny, I'll read anything as my slightly out of control Kindle purchases proves. Girl, you got a lot of books. It's an impressive problem indeed. Slightly out of control. Don't be lying and dragging mother's life. It is only slightly. Jenny, there are four of us in the book buying competition. You bought more books than the other three of us combined. Just keep a towel handy. Time to start Vogon Poetry Thursdays. We've got your number. It's already wrong. Oh, Jenny, did you buy more books already since the other day? That's wild. Now, see, with the UFOs, I don't think there's necessarily anything buzzing around the earth, mostly because why? If they're advanced enough to get here, there's nothing we have that they're going to be scoping out. It's old news to them. And, excuse me, thinking as well, the sunlight that we see is always 8 minutes old. You'll never see anything more than 8 minute old sunlight because that's how long it takes to travel here. Now that's 93 million miles away. Everything else out there is way farther. So to get here and all of that, and what I always worry about, and I actually have to double check with some of this stuff now on some of this reincarnation and stuff. I always worry when hypnotherapy is involved. And it's not that I think the people who say things are lying and I think they believe what they're saying. The problem is if it's false memories, and that's on the
Yeah.
person conducting the therapy session. And I just have to grab a drink. And that I'm aware of because a relative of mine had false memories about something that did not happen in their childhood, but they were 100% convinced it did. And as I've been reading about some of this stuff as well, they do talk about, here's the birthday boy.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Hi, thank you.
Here, you want to see people?
No, not really.
Look, he's older.
Yes, he is. I didn't notice that. Just the first 50 pages.
How'd you get the first 50?
I get the whole thing online free.
Oh my gosh.
But-
Hey, Pat, I can read some of Drood. I got the
and
first
I bet, as opposed to Gareth, I bet Bob actually understands the words I'm saying.
50.
I probably do. You don't have that English thing going on.
Got that English. Dragon Papa, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we've got 4 more. Jenny, jeez. Oh, there you go. Happy birthday.
Thank you all.
Dragon Papa says thank you. And see, this for the next few weeks is when I will get his age wrong.
Mhm.
Because for right now, we're 10 years apart. But when my birthday hits in early January, we go back to being 9 years apart. But I forget that. And then I keep aging him throughout the year. It's like, how old is he? And whoops,
Yeah.
wrong number, which is too funny. But
But Capricorns rule. We know that. Capricorns for the win.
Absolutely. It's in our astrology books. And there's the other funny thing, the number of Capricorns that I've met. And I still have to get the live stream for the January birthday and figure out. And if you're free that day and would like to join in or just pop in, and there'll be cake. I know Dave's always like, oh, cookies is our thing. I'm like, exactly. I have cake on special occasions. So if it's like the channel anniversary or birthdays and things like that. But yeah, I find the UFO thing interesting. And I agree. They are unidentified flying objects. Doesn't mean that it's aliens. It means there's all this stuff we still don't know. It could be atmospheric stuff. I mean, one of the videos I was just watching, they said there was 5 or 6,000 satellites, and that's just Starlink up there. So, I mean, some of this stuff people are seeing at night, especially if they're not familiar with looking at the night sky.
Yeah.
And, those things flash because depending on where they go and the sun, and it has to be just the right angle. There's so much there that we still don't know. And there could be a scientific explanation. It's like a lot of the paranormal stuff. It just hasn't been explained by science. Like with the grays or the shadow people or whatever you want to call them, it could be something to do with vision and peripheral. It could depend on how tired you are and like sleep paralysis. A lot of people who have said about that feeling of someone on them, and yet it's sleep paralysis. Like there's a lot of different answers. Hun, Gareth and Kat say happy birthday. Thank you.
I don't believe in Bigfoot. I don't believe in fairies and leprechauns, but we know the Loch Ness monster exists. I don't care about the people who say it's a hoax. I don't care about the people who took photographs and then later said it was a hoax. No, the Loch Ness monster, Nessie, Nishak, exists.
So Nessie you'll believe, but not Bigfoot.
Well,
with all that open forest, unexplored area.
Well, and Nessie showed up in Outlander, so why would Diana Gabaldon lie to us?
Good point. Oh, there you go. Jenny set her goal already. Next year, she's going to be the least. No, you won't. There's just no way. There you go. Guilty pleasure. I know little bits of it, like I know my sun sign, but anything else I need to book. Remember, Capricorn's best friend is a Scorpio. There we go.
Mhm.
Look, I'm a Libra. Hey, Papa, happy birthday. Oops, that wasn't directed at me. Sorry. You know what? It's okay. Don't remember who a Libra's bestie is. Yeah, see? I would need a book to be able. Can't always trust our senses, but our senses help us make sense of the
Yeah.
world. That's an excellent way of putting it. Jenny agrees. Nessie is real. Have to believe in her to see her.
What?
That's like a few things in the paranormal realm.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how far Jenny is from Inverness, but I was watching uh, the Ear Read This channel, Ash Catton's channel, and he had a lot of footage today from his travel to Leakey's, which is one of those places that it just, yeah, that's a place I'd like to go. I don't know how. I don't know how I'll ever get there, but man, if I ever get to Scotland, Leakey's is on the list.
Nice. Well, see, and I travel virtually through everybody else, and it's Gareth that always does his lovely travel vlog. So, been able to hop over to Greece and Croatia and New York.
Yeah, New York's scary because apparently when you go to New York, there's this attorney who just runs up and down the street with his arms waving and he grabs hold of you for no apparent reason. So I don't know. That was pretty spooky.
He's adorable. Oh, here we go. So Jenny is 2.5 hours away from Inverness.
I
Yeah,
was
that would
I
be
was
lovely.
yeah, I was just doing some comparisons just because I know so many people now in uh, particularly in England, but throughout the UK. And I was looking at, so I live in Idaho. Our state is larger than Great Britain, takes up more square miles.
Really?
Although the area, and Gareth, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but the area around Portsmouth is about 2 million people. That's what we have in our entire state.
Wow.
So we're a little less crowded.
Well, and up here, like I live in the biggest province, Ontario, and we have
Mhm.
14 million people,
Yeah,
but most of them are in southwestern Ontario. The northern part, not very populated.
right.
And then you factor in that we have just over 30 million people in the entire country. So almost half of our country's entire population is crammed into southwestern Ontario, and then the rest of it's dispersed throughout the other provinces.
Yeah,
It's wild.
yeah. The other thing that I hadn't thought about until I was just messing around with maps is how far north the UK is. So I'm at
Mm.
about the 43rd parallel. Um, the south part of England is about the 50th. So I'm more,
Mm.
if you go through, I'm in the same latitude as like Florence, Italy. So
Oh, wow.
I'm, it doesn't seem that far south because Idaho borders Canada, and Canada is not, doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it's that far away. It is, but it doesn't. We're at the top of the map, the north part of the map,
Yeah.
and then you say, oh, if you go straight across your Florence, we're a long way south of Gareth and Gavin, and way south of Jenny.
Now, you don't get snow your way, do you?
We get some, but
Ever?
yeah, we got. In fact, we got about an inch and a half today. It's already melting off, and we get snow here, partly just because of the elevation here is about 2,500 feet. So
Mm.
so we get which I don't think there is a mountain in the British Isles that is that tall.
Mm.
I don't think Ben Nevis is that tall. I can't remember. And just where I live, just normally I'm
Yeah, see,
higher
we've
up.
had about 1.5 feet of snow clear across the yard. But now, oh, my trellis is completely empty now. Well, from there, it's melted since yesterday because we've had mild temperatures.
Yeah,
So now all of that stuff is starting to melt, which just makes it extra slippery and scary
yeah,
because it just does. Now, this is cool. She's from Croatia. So that's awesome.
yeah. And that yeah, and I'm pretty much if I follow the 43rd, uh, I yeah the 43rd parallel, I would be pretty close to where Lydia is. I can't remember. I looked that up just to see, and
Yeah,
I thought
that's cool.
we're not that far away when it comes to north south.
Nice. Now, Jenny's saying a lot of US states are larger than our country, which is funny because a lot of our provinces are vast and huge compared to
Yeah,
many of the states. You could fit a bunch of states in our different provinces.
yeah. I
Which
Idaho's bigger, but than Great Britain, and we're the 13th largest of the 50 states. There are 12, and after you got Alaska, Texas, California, Montana, and then I don't remember what else. They're all out here, all out west. Rhode Island and Delaware, not as
yeah,
big.
they're teeny, teeny. Now, is California the largest? California or
Alaska
Texas?
is the biggest. Alaska, and then Texas, and then
Oh, is
California.
it?
Yeah, I believe
Wow.
that's correct. And then Montana after that, and
Hmm.
then some others. I would think like maybe the Dakotas are maybe
Oh,
the
but they're split
Nevada.
in half. Yeah.
Nevada probably is. I'd have to do some
Yeah,
looking.
it would. I'd need a map in front of me. So
Yeah,
Jenny's saying entire population is smaller than London alone.
yeah.
Wow.
Because London's like around 20 million or so, isn't it? I think it's in that range.
Well, the London I live in isn't even 500,000.
Right.
But I'm in the London, Canada. I'm not sure in Britain how big it is. So yeah, it surprised me. Basically the same parallel, which is
Yep.
cool. And yeah, and again, until you see that on maps, it's hard to imagine just where things cross. And I mean, I know the fool with too much makeup, and if you're paying attention, this is why you don't wear makeup because it rots your brains. But that line isn't straight. There is no straight line. Might be because they use a Sharpie and can't use a pen, but the line is not straight between those. And yeah, Cat always laughs. Didn't know there was a London in Canada till me.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I
it's surprising the similarity in names everywhere. Greg?
I uh some people know my last name, and I'm not going to say it on this big
Yeah.
broadcast, but um Greg is a fairly common name for people my age.
Mm.
All the Gregs are born within about 7 years of each other. We're all exactly the same age. Um,
Wow.
uh, but I met a guy named Greg who had the same last name as I did, who worked at uh, university in London. I don't know what's there, but I met him through an internet database mailing list way back in the days when we had mailing lists and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah. So that was I may have known that London existed, but he was from there. What?
The University of Western Ontario.
Okay.
If it's my London up here in
Yeah,
Canada, and he was
yeah.
at
It was
university,
in. It
that's
was in. I'm pretty sure it was in London. I don't think it was like Guelph or any of those other crazy places.
well, it would either London, the biggest is Toronto,
Yeah.
which is the capital of Ontario. And it was so sweet because years ago when we were down in Pennsylvania, and we had met another couple, a lovely couple, and we were chit-chatting, and they're like, "Yeah, we've been to Toronto, but we've never been to Ontario." I didn't have the heart to tell them Toronto's the capital of Ontario and you couldn't get to Toronto without being in Ontario, but
Yeah.
tomato, tomato, it
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. Well, and I know there are two booktubers who I know who are from Toronto or from
Mm.
the greater Toronto metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's huge. It's crazy how far encompasses millions.
Yeah.
So Jenny's saying Scotland has 5.5 million and London is around 9 million
Okay.
people. Still a lot of
Thank
people
you.
for a small area. That's small, live in a state, more cows than people. Used to a lot of folks from growing up around Atlanta. We're
And I
small
always
but
say
mighty and feisty.
I always say when somebody says Atlanta, I always ask them Atlanta, Idaho, and usually that's not what they mean. Atlanta, Idaho is it's in the middle of forests up in central Idaho in the middle of a national forest, and I
Huh?
think there might be 20 full-time residents up
Oh,
there. Although
wow.
I do know one person who grew up in that Atlanta, and every once in a while I'll say Atlanta, Idaho, and they'll go, yeah, it's
Yeah.
rare, but there are some people like who who are
Well,
from the
it's
other
interesting.
Atlanta.
Yeah. Someone was just mentioning that they were potentially and planning to move to Vancouver, but they were talking about Washington,
Washington. Hmm.
not Vancouver, Canada, which apparently those two are hours apart as well. And that's why I say
Yeah.
it's interesting how there's a lot of the same names. Oh, John, 11.03 million in Georgia this year made me curious, had to Google it.
Yeah. Yeah. Vancouver, British Columbia, and Vancouver, Washington can't be more than about a 5-hour drive. You just
Mm,
get across from Canada, you cross the border, get on I-5, and drive. If you cross the river into Portland, you went too far. Turn around and go back across the river.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting how those like I say, the same names, and it's always funny because, well, yeah, I'm in London, Canada, and then there's the huge London, England, which I've been to once. That was cool, and that was my big over the pond adventure when I was 16, but never been across
Mhm.
the pond since then. And trying to travel now is just, yeah, that's not happening with the pressure in a plane. My back couldn't handle it, and sitting
Yeah,
in a car, nah. I travel virtually through other people. I appreciate it. There's no airport
yeah,
waits.
yeah. Gareth always likes to tell, especially us Americans, that we need to quit stealing their names. You know, we have at least a Portsmouth, and we have a New Hampshire, and we
Oh, there you
and
go.
we have if you know anything that you can pronounce, we probably have one here. I'm not sure we have like a Leicester,
Ah,
although there's so in bluegrass music. This is just an aside. This has nothing to do with nothing. One of the early groups was Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs. They originally were part of Bill Monroe's band. They were part of the Bluegrass Boys, and then they left and started their own bluegrass band. And so really, the starting in the 1940s or so. but Lester and Earl, there was a bluegrass band that formed from well-known musicians a few years ago, and they called themselves the Earls of Leicester. You spelled Leicester Leci, whatever, Leicester, but the Earls of Leicester, or Lester and Earl, which I thought was pretty humorous.
That is.
There's a booktuber from Leicester, at least one that I know of.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, see, and that's the other neat thing is meeting people from so many different places.
Yeah.
Jenny's ancestors were just too lazy to come up with new names. Then Kat's almost finished work. Ven has escaped. Missing Noah, indeed. It's also a Versailles in the U.S. and a Cuba in Dublin. All right, that I did not know.
I worked for a company, a grocery store company, and they had one of the offices was in Dublin, and I was really surprised because I didn't know it was an international company. Found out it was Dublin, California.
Oh,
in the Bay Area. Which,
wow!
which was really, that was kind of disappointing that it was not the Dublin, just a Dublin.
Be much cooler to have it in Ireland.
Yeah. So when I got to travel to Dublin, it really wasn't that.
It wasn't that big a thrill. No big plane flight and cool accents.
I got to get on a plane, but I think I can't remember if we flew into San Francisco or if we flew into San Jose, but yeah.
Yeah. And Kat saying stealing names from other countries. Well, it seems to happen throughout many countries have similar names. I mean, there's only so many. Oh,
and if you want to, if you want to have, when you want to make that connection to your homeland, we have in Idaho, we have in Aberdeen, and I'm sure that the people who founded that town were either from Aberdeen or they're like their parents or grandparents or something. I don't know the history of Aberdeen, Idaho, but I can't imagine that they would just pick that name out of a hat.
Yeah.
They came from Aberdeen.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know how the different names came up in the towns.
Yeah.
Excuse me, voice going there. So there are 6 Aberdeens. But I mean, your explanation may make sense, Greg, that if the people from Scotland were settling in those areas as they would have.
Yeah. Which is, in Aberdeen, I think it's just based off Aberdeen River, the River Dean. It's, I assume, but I don't know that for positives. Yeah. But
she's saying the River Dee and Don is how it. It's that could be a whole other live stream, is how they came up with the different names and things like that. But well, we've been almost 2 hours.
Yeah. Did we cover everything? I think the only thing I should definitely mention is that I am reading this book here that some of you will recognize that name.
Orla Rafferty.
It's you can tell for sure that it's Margaret because look, there she is.
Yeah, her cutesy little picture. And it'll be the one time we don't have Margaret here, but we'll definitely have to mention, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on reading about Orla. It sounds like a fascinating book.
It is. So far it is. It kind of depends on how my vision is not consistent. And so when I have good vision days, I read. I
Yeah.
read actual real live books, and then I get the e-reader out or do audiobooks or whatever. So I'm always reading. I just can't always read the physical copies.
Well, and that's the lovely thing about now is there are other
Yeah.
options. Like
Yeah.
my last few years when I worked in schools, it was with technology and supporting students who had reading challenges. Excuse me. And so it was lovely that they had text that could be read to them. And then seeing it visually, they were also learning to recognize the word while hearing it.
Yeah.
So they were getting it both visually and orally. And being able to do that made such a huge difference for them because they could learn independently without, someone having to read and all of that. And it's lovely that those options are available. Like Bob reads on his Kobo.
Hmm.
I can not do ebooks very well, especially if they're long books, um, just because my vision, I don't do as well reading on a computer as I
Hmm.
do with a book in hand. I don't know if it's the lighting, whatever. Or the position that it's sitting like this versus on an angle. Audiobooks, I end up, my brain goes somewhere else because I don't just zone into it.
Yeah.
And, but thank goodness there's so many, other opportunities there that, like you say, with your vision, that way you can still enjoy the book.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just spelt Lydia's name wrong. I just wanted to. um, but yeah, we've now Ven was mentioning as well. Okay, so Jenny's saying Aber means mouth of. Okay, and Dean is a mash of D and Don. Cool. The green book from yesterday. Orla's good. Oh yeah, I think Venton has mentioned it. Helps that I know some of the places mentioned as the Manchester ones are local. That's cool. He's saying have to catch up with the beginning, missed later. Oh, thanks so much. Appreciated having you stop by.
Yeah.
Bye, Lydia. Thought it's going to end soon. Stick around some more. Take care. Yep, take care. Yeah, well, I would think so with all those Kindle books you have. Like those are in the K's, my dear. But yeah, I think it has been lovely having you here, Greg,
Yeah. This
and
has been a lot of fun.
should go hang with the hubby for his birthday dinner. And
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. You should do that.
well, we've had part of the day together, so this was a lovely way to break up the afternoon. And awesome learning about your channel and just learning about you and your reads. This has been fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Oh, and Jenny's saying favorite way is immersive, get much less distractions that way.
Yeah.
Oh, Ven says happy birthday.
Yeah. I have really, that's something just in the last year that I started doing reading and listening at the same time. And
Mm,
I find that especially for older books that have the language is a little different,
yep.
sometimes the spelling is a little different and you're not sure, um, so I have found that to be a really helpful way to just get more understanding drilled into my brain. Yeah, and like Jenny says, it's there are fewer distractions, but I think that it sets with me really well
Mm,
to read and to see the words and hear the words. Put
yeah.
those together, that works out really well for me.
Well, and it makes me laugh because my students would kick, scream, and carry on. I don't need to use this, but and now I'm listening to all these adults who are like, I love this. This is
Yeah.
great. I'm like, yeah, I wish my kids had thought so because it was like, no, I don't need to do this. It's like, it's a good experience. It's to help you. It's not a weakness.
I don't know about you, but the younger I was, the more I knew.
Yeah,
And as I get
well,
older, I know less and less.
I know. I think that I ended up as an EA so that I could get all those words thrown back at me and see if I'd lose my mind like I did to my teachers. Karma, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much thank you everyone who could join us. A big thanks as always to Team Rewatch.
Yep.
Gonna do the wave because unlike Margaret,